If you work with children or adults with a trauma history, you've probably been told they just won't behave. But here's the truth. Trauma isn't a behavior problem. It's a nervous system problem. When we treat a trauma response as a choice, we punish survival. When we understand it as can't cope rather than won't behave, our whole approach changes. Hey, I'm Andy Baker. I'm the host of the Able to Care podcast. In this episode, I want to talk about something that shows up in schools, foster care, residential homes, and even in families. Behavior that doesn't make sense until you look at it through a trauma-informed lens. We'll unpack what trauma actually does to the brain and body, why traditional behavior charts and consequences often backfire with kids and adults, and what a more therapeutic, compassionate response looks like day to day. Let's take an example of a young lad in school called Ryan. And during an activity in class, another child ends up bumping into him and Ryan pushes a kid over violently. Now, straight away, the instinct is he shouldn't be allowed to do that. He should be punished. But if we backtrack and look through Ryan's trauma lens, let's find out a little bit about Ryan. What if Ryan's in an environment that is unsafe? Often he hears shouting, banging, screaming at night. He knows that people are being hurt. He knows people are in danger. And him and his brother don't sleep very well and have to hide in their bedroom in case it comes their way. And because he doesn't sleep very well, yes, he gets up in the morning because he has to get his little brother ready for school. He gets up early. He has to make himself breakfast, make himself a bit of a packed lunch, and off they go to school. His clothes are a bit dirty. He's already in a heightened state of arousal. The day can be difficult. Other kids don't understand him. He's already tired. He didn't get any breakfast properly. There was minimal food in the house. He's already at a stress state. And then, another kid bumps into him and he ends up losing that control in that moment. Ryan's brain is in stress state. It's in fight or flight. So of course, if you imagine him like a frightened flight animal and somebody bumps into him, well, what would a snake do? It would strike. It wouldn't think about the if, buts, and maybes and should and shouldn't I. It'll just react in a way to keep itself safe in that moment. It doesn't mean the behavior is okay. And this is one thing that we need to kind of be clear about when we're looking at trauma-informed and therapeutic approaches. That doesn't mean, so it's okay that Ryan going around pushing other kids. But why would we shame him and blame him and punish him for trying to keep himself safe? If we change the lens to its self-defense, it would still be a case of that's not okay, but well, what is the way to keep himself safe in that situation? How can we help him to feel safe? Surely we should be supporting him and teaching him, rather than punishing him. So let's understand a little bit about what's going on in the brain. So I often refer to, there's two parts of the brain, if we keep it real simple, which is the alarm bell, which we refer to as the amygdala, and then we've got the conductor to the orchestra. Now, when information comes through, the first place it goes to is that alarm bell that goes, is this safe or is this dangerous? We know it goes there first because that's why somebody you know can jump scare you. Your alarm bell goes off, you react or you flinch, and then the information then goes to the conductor that goes, wait a minute, you know them, they're not actually a danger, and the conductor turns your alarm bell back off and you're able to re-regulate. If, however, the information comes through is something that's dangerous and the alarm bell goes off, and the alarm bell confirms, yeah, this is definitely unsafe, and the conductor goes, yeah, you're right, this is something unsafe, let's keep ourselves safe, then it activates our fight-flight response, our sympathetic nervous system. Now, if for whatever reasons I can't run away or fight, well, the only responses I've got left is to then activate the parasympathetic nervous system and go into freeze or fawn response. So I describe it like this. Fight or flight is the alarm bell going off. Calm is the alarm bell switched off. Freeze and fawn is where somebody is holding the hammer of the alarm just to make sure it doesn't make a noise. Now, let's say that something bad happened to you guys in a green room yesterday, but it just wasn't nice. It wasn't too bad. It just wasn't nice. You then walk into a green room the following day and that stimulus, that green, then triggers that slight alarm bell to go off going, oh, is this okay? Is this safe in here? But your then conductor goes, it's okay. It's different day, different situation, you're fine. If, however, whatever happened in that green room was something that we perceived as life-threatening to ourselves or somebody else, the information comes through and it might activate that alarm into a hyper mode. And the conductor kind of doesn't have time to respond or doesn't have time. It's overwhelming for the conductor to go, this is a different situation. The alarm bell is hyper aroused. It's already kind of going off. And therefore that fight, flight, or freeze or fawn response immediately kicks in. So this individual has a hyper vigilant alarm. He's got a hypersensitive alarm because they're living in a world where the alarm has been either really necessary in the past, which means become, and any part of the brain that's used a lot will get better. The same as, if you do a lot of writing, you get better at writing. If you do a lot of juggling, you get better at juggling. Well, if you do a lot of surviving, you get better at surviving. So a trauma-impacted nervous system is constantly scanning for danger. So a simple no, a change in routine or change in predictability, even a raised eyebrow might feel like a threat. Now, on a rational point, we know that raised eyebrow is, I'm only raising my eyebrow, I'm not actually a risk to them. But if you imagine that, let's say I saw a lion and it chased me down one day, and I only just escaped with my life. The next time I saw a lion, I wouldn't then go, but I'm sure this lion's friendly. I'm sure it doesn't mean anything. The reason it's roaring is for a different reason, not because it's coming to chase me. So straight away, think about exactly the same. What if I've had a caregiver? That raised eyebrow is an indication of something bad about to happen. So when you raise your eyebrow, my brain's not going to wait to see if you are safe or dangerous. It's going to immediately go into that fight or flight response and go, danger. So let's say that we've got somebody who's been exposed to domestic abuse, for instance, or physical violence with somebody shouting. And then I raise my voice for nothing related to that. Suddenly I'm triggering this emotional response in this individual. What if somebody bumping into them? Well, how do the brain know? Oh, that's not actually a threat. That's just somebody being a bit boisterous in class. Now, the problem with this is that if we're trying to manage a traumatized brain, where it's a survival mechanism, and whether that, when we're looking at fight flight as well, we could go into a lot of detail, and fight flight isn't always about punching, kicking, and running away. Fight is sometimes defiance, demanding, controlling, lying. Anything that's confrontational is then kind of your fight response. Flight is hypervigilance, running away, hyperanxiety, repetitive questions, like struggling to settle, fidgeting, which all may be perceived as disruptive behavior at times. The freeze is kind of hiding, withdrawal, shutdown, disengagement, selective mutism. All of these potentially more freeze-like responses. So straight away, if we recognize these as reflexes, they're not a choice. They're what a person feels or the brain is telling this person to do. Think of the brain telling them to do this in the moment, to go, you must do this to stay safe. Shame, isolation, escalating sanctions may confirm the person's core beliefs that I'm only trying to do, or my brain must be bad because it tells me to do these things. Because the person who's setting these standards, these expectations, is not understanding why the brain is telling this person to do things. And for them, they don't understand. It's very difficult to understand that you are different from everybody else in the way your brain responds. You're going to assume that rather than, hey, my brain works differently because of the environmental social factors, my brain's different because I'm bad. So when we're looking at things from a trauma-informed lens, we're going to swap some of our principles. First one is we're going to language swap. We're going to change from what's wrong with you to what's happened to you and what you're trying to cope with. This is where you're being curious. So all sorts of behavior that I refer to, I'm just ingraining these same habits. Curiosity. What's happened to you in the past that could be presenting in the present? What are you fearing in this moment? What are the emotions that are going on underneath this reaction? And you have to go deeper than you might expect. So it may be a case of it's coming towards break time, for instance, and this child's starting to act out a little bit all the time when they're getting closer to break time. Is it because that something about break time makes them feel really nervous? Maybe you've noticed that when certain staff come on shift in the care home, certain behaviors seem to escalate as soon as that person works through the door. And it could be anything from the way the person smells, holds themselves, looks, their hair color, all could be green room principles. So step 1 is language swap. Step 2, goal swap. Move from compliance to safety. Rather than you must do as I tell you, how can I help you to feel safe? So connection first. So I know I say it many times on the podcast, but I don't think I can say it enough because we're putting it into different contexts, but connection before correction. It's calm, connect, resolve, correct. And in that order. Next, strategy swap. Stop punishing. Work to regulation, relationship, and teaching. We shouldn't just be working on punishing somebody for running away from the lion. We need to teach them that the lion isn't actually there, or the lion isn't real, the lion is not actually dangerous. Recognize what is genuinely dangerous and not. Help them to regulate their emotions in that moment. Help them to recognize how the behaviors are impacting on their relationships, and also then help them to rebuild their relationships after an incident, and then teach them the skills they need to be able to keep themselves safe, to keep themselves calm, and to make the appropriate choices. It's about co-regulation. They need help with this rather than being just told off for this. And it's a journey. This doesn't happen because you've decided they shouldn't do this anymore. This is something that they may not be aware of. So therefore, we need to work with them to help them to overcome these challenges for them, not for you. With trauma, what can sometimes look like defiance is often defense. And if I punish your survival response, I teach you one thing. It's not safe to need anybody else. How can I then build connection and trust people if we get punished for doing the things that we perceive as keeping us safe? Trauma-informed practice is not being soft, though. It's about being strategic, about safety, learning, and long-term behavioral change. And the question that changes everything is, what are you trying to protect right now? If you found this useful, please check out more of our podcasts and our episodes. So like, comment, and share with anybody you feel could benefit from this. Check out my work on targeting the positive with behaviors that challenge, and also check out ABLE training and the training we do on trauma, attachment, and understanding behavior with the ABLE target system. Thanks. Have you ever encountered an adult or child's behavior that has felt difficult, overwhelming, or challenging? Have you sometimes felt at a loss of what to do, or know that you didn't handle it quite right? People are complex and unpredictable, and their behavior can be like the weather. We've all made the mistake of looking out the window and feeling safe to wear shorts, but 5 minutes later wishing for an umbrella. But what if, like a weatherman, you understood how humidity, temperature, and pressure all come together to cause the weather, allowing you to better prepare, predict, and respond, and prevent ever having a picnic ruined by a thunderstorm ever again? My book, called Targeting the Positive with Behaviours that Challenge, helps you to become the weatherman of behaviour. It provides you with a toolkit to increase competency, confidence, resilience, and empathy, so you feel more assured about how to respond to distressed or dysregulated behaviours in others, including those affected by trauma, mental health, neurodiversity, learning disabilities, or dementia. Build better connections, achieve de-escalation, and improve outcomes for yourself and those you engage with my celebrated 6-stage target model, a step-by-step process to reduce distress for everyone. Discover my empowering, person-centered guide in Targeting the Positive, written by me, Andy Baker, available from online bookstores worldwide. Find a link in the description and order today.